All right, so I want to make a video updating everyone on the case issues or case numbers as usual, as well as getting into some other big things. And there was a lot of big stuff, probably a few big stories that have, not stories, but things that have came out that I wanted to get into. So let's get right into it. Um, Canada's up over 1,000 dead now for the first time. So again, that's not good, but the curves have definitely been flattened as I've been looking at things. So that's a good sign, and there's some other good things that I'll get into later. Alberta's had 126 new cases yesterday, which is down from yesterday, but still very high compared to the average over the last week or so. The one other thing that I didn't think of that I should have thought of that I bringing up yesterday and the days before is that Alberta has been testing, per capita, at a very high rate. So even though we do have a lot of cases, it is also good to point out, or a good idea to point out, that if we were testing at the rate of the average area, then we would have less cases. So that's the problem, is there's a lot of asymptomatic cases. There's a lot of people that have it that don't get tested. There's a lot of people that, oh, I have the sniffles. You don't really, you have very moderate symptoms. You feel like you have a normal cold. You go get tested, sure enough you have it, but if this whole thing would have been going on, you wouldn't have went to the hospital, right? So that's something I wanted to point out. And like I say, the case numbers, it is looking a little bit better. Even though Alberta has 19, almost 2,000 cases, we do have 914 recovered. So the amount of people that actively have it is going down. So that's another good sign. And then there's this PowerPoint presentation that they now have linked here. And again, these numbers are from April, or it was last updated April 8th. So again, that was 8 days ago. So again, the things would have changed recently since this has gone out, but I haven't seen anything like this yet. So it is a good thing to look at. Now here they compare Alberta to other countries, or Alberta and Canada. Again, Canada is actually very good. Again, the curve is relatively flat. Like, I mean, compared to Spain, Italy, France, all these um, European countries, again, the States too, it's much more of a pronounced curve. So again, Canada is actually relatively good. And again, if we would have closed the borders, if we would have taken this seriously earlier on, this we would have been laughing. Like, we would have been laughing. We'd have barely even noticed it. But again, this is comparing provinces. As you can see, Quebec's really the only province that's had a very pronounced uptick, and again, they're still going up pretty steady. But again, as you can see, Alberta, Saskatchewan, BC, Ontario all have a relatively flat curve, like relatively flat, and it's really Quebec that's swaying the numbers too. So keep that in mind. Um, Again, that's another comparison of the provinces. This is hospitalization. And again, this is something I want to point out too, that Alberta, of the 1,348 cases at the time, only 90 people ended up in hospital and just 31 ended up in the ICU. So of the 1,348 cases, only 31 people, it was incredibly serious. And obviously at the time, 24 people died. So again, like less than 0.2% of people that get this are going to end up in the hospital. So that's the one thing when I point out that I think, like, when I say that we're taking this, I think that we're going a little too far, and that the whole, the cure is worse than the disease mentality, which is where I kind of fall into. Again, I think that's kind of what we're looking at. Quebec's, like I say, the only area that's really hit really hard. Even like, this is a per one per 10,000, so again, it's adjusted for population. Again, Quebec, you're 5 times more likely to end up in the hospital than Alberta. Ontario, you're about twice as likely. BC, again, Alberta is the best province of the big four, I guess. Saskatchewan, Manitoba don't have nearly the population, although Alberta doesn't have nearly the population of an Alberta, or of a Ontario, even Quebec for that matter. But anyway, again, I just wanted to point that out. This is deaths by age group, and again, of the deaths, um, 24 of the 20. Again, this doesn't add up here. This doesn't add up. That's 23, 24, 20. Oh, sorry, it does add up. Sorry, I messed up my math there. But anyway, 23 of the 26 dead. Um, are people that were over 60. So again, the overwhelming majority of people dying, 23 of 26 at the time were people over 60. So and not to mention too, I would bet money that of these three people, probably two, if not all three of them, were people that had underlying health conditions, whether it's diabetes, obesity, heart conditions, whatever, lung conditions of some sort. So that's the thing too to point out is that of the people dying, they're almost all like 99%, people that are over 60, specifically people over 80. Even if you're in that 60 to 79 range, you're still relatively unlikely. But compared to someone in their 20s, 30s, or 40s, you're a lot more likely than that. Um, Testing across jurisdictions, again, they go into a lot of things here too. This is the projected curve here, and as you can see, this the worst they projected basically by third week of May, roughly second third week of May, the cases start to go down pretty drastically, and then by the end of June for them to be pretty much non-existent. And the one thing I do want to mention too is that no matter what we do, there's going to be a second wave. When you see these kind of things, there's always a second wave, and I would point out too that we shouldn't react to the second wave. So anyway, that's this stuff. I wanted to get into that because it's kind of interesting. This is from Jason Kenney. He put this out this morning, and it's basically the plan to go back to work, restarting the economy, all that kind of stuff. And he kind of hints that the plan is to reopen things by the end of May and to take it, again, I think he says it right there. Um, yeah, orders will be in place until the end of May. And that's as of right now, so something could change too. I don't know how often they update their decision on that kind of stuff, but again, just wanted to point that out. And it's something too that we really need to get figured out because it's not a matter of flipping a light switch on and off like I keep mentioning too. And a lot of people seem to believe in this misconception too. That's not how it works. A lot of people when this ends, whenever it is, they're going to think they have a job and all of a sudden they don't have a job. A lot of people are going to have a job and the economy is not going to be nearly as strong and they're going to lose their job because the economy is not as strong. And like I said, the problem is the longer we keep this going, the worse it's going to be because the, we can't keep we can't keep bailing out businesses and paying people not to work and stuff forever. The longer you can, I mean, we're not going to be able to maintain it in the long run regardless, but you can maintain it easier the shorter it is, the easier it is to maintain, basically. And like I said, that this whole waiting till there's a vaccine is completely impossible unless someone miraculously discovers a vaccine 10 times faster than it normally takes, which never going to happen. Never going to happen. So we need to get the economy. Like I said, my point is at some point in May, the economy needs to reopen. Whether it's, I would say, as early as May long weekend. After that, as late as the end of May's first week of June. That would be my idea, and for the simple reason that at some point we have to say some people are going to die, but it's not fair that we save the lives of in Alberta. Let's just say maybe 10 people we save the lives for, most likely people that are going to die relatively soon anyway. Like, is it worth I'm just using an example, is it worth saving their lives at the expense of making a 500,000 people suffer, a lot of them pretty drastically? Like, to me that doesn't make sense too. Like, this is a point to where the needs of the many do outweigh the needs of the few. I don't believe that in most cases, but again, we're going to completely destroy the economy and the country if we continue down this road. And the problem like that is that the governments really don't care. Like, the governments really don't care because they get paid no matter what. So again, we don't get paid no matter what. They get paid no matter what. And the other problem with government too is that the bigger the problems is, the more people are desperate for government to solve the problems, which is why the government likes these kind of problems, because people come running for solutions from the government. And that's the big problem with this kind of stuff. That's the really big problem when the economy's doing really good and everyone's doing good. people don't really need the government. But when there's massive problems in society, people come running to the government to get bailed out. And that's why I think that especially the Trudeau government is prolonging this so much. And that's why someone like I think Jason Kenney is so eager to get things back on track, is that if the economy doesn't get back on track, his chances of re-elections go down. So, and that's like thing too that I think the Trudeau government knows at this point there's nothing that they can do to get people to change their minds on them. Like they were one of the weakest incumbent administrations in a long time, and yet they still got elected with relative ease. I know they don't have a majority, but still, a lot of that is from the Bloc, the NDP, the Greens picking up some seats. The Conservatives didn't really pick up a whole lot of seats, but again, I just wanted to bring that up. This is from Mr. Bill Kay. He goes on to say Trudeau is claiming that mass vaccination needs to occur before Canada can return to normal. Bill Gates lobbied Trudeau so that you can be guaranteed Trudeau will getting a massive kickback with your money. Liberal corruption is endless and must stop. Again, this whole idea of forced vaccinations and all this kind of stuff is one of the most draconian thing. First of all, it flies in the face of the whole "my body, my choice" people. So I mean, which is most people on the left, especially the women. So again, how can it be my body, my choice, but we're going to force vaccines into you? And the problem with vaccines is the people who believe in that kind of stuff are people who think vaccines are 100% safe and effective, which they're not. And they're not by definition pretty much because vaccines need, when they inject you with them, they're designed to simulate an immune response. And what, and the problem with that is that can create inflammation. And for some people, it creates too much more inflammation than the body can handle. So again, vaccine, and not to mention too, vaccine companies are immune from any liability. Which how can you possibly argue that if your product is 100% safe and effective, turn around and be like, yeah, we want immunity over any lawsuits? Like how can you possibly argue that? Like that flies in the face of 100% safe and effective. Like you're literally saying that our product isn't 100% safe and effective if that's what you're arguing. So again, this whole idea, I don't care what you believe in vaccinations. I think that some of them are good. I think that some of them are completely unnecessary. But regardless of what you believe, you cannot possibly argue in good faith for forced vaccinations. If you want to get them, go right ahead. But arguing that you can force other people to do it too, and again, never make the whole "my body, my choice" argument ever again. If you're going to make that argument, and that's just sheer draconian, something that the Nazis and some of these communist governments wish that they had the power to do. Like imagine too, like if you were part of the Nazi regime, would you want them to have the ability to force a vaccination on you, or quote unquote vaccination, with air quotes? Again, that this is something that should never go on, no matter what. And again, that should be again a nonpartisan issue. Um, this is from Andy No, and I know this is an American story, but this kind of stuff has gone on in Canada as well, not to the same degree yet. But he says a Florida inmate who was let out of jail due to the virus concerns has been arrested and charged with committing murder the day after he was released. Now we had this story in, I think it was Toronto area, that the guy was let out of prison and he went and attacked a cop. Now, how many of these people are going out and committing crimes too? And this idea makes absolutely no sense. That prisons are one of the most um, guarded and the easiest place to enforce social distancing, right? Because there's a literal, cement wall or metal bars forcing you to distance yourself. So again, why are we releasing people from prison for this kind of stuff? It makes no sense. We're giving people tickets for playing with their kids in the park, but we're releasing people from prison. Like, how does that make any sense? Can someone please explain the logic in this? Like, and again, this is another thing that should be completely nonpartisan. Like, where's all the lefties? I mean, there probably is some of them, but where's all the lefties up in arms about this kind of stuff? Because I've only seen more right-wing people talking about this kind of stuff. And like I say, I might be wrong, but again, I haven't seen it. And the one thing I would point out too is that if we're releasing people that are in jail for drug possession, tax evasion, stuff that's non-violent, yeah, go ahead, put them on probation. They shouldn't be in prison anyway. Um, but these people, like someone like this, someone that goes out and commits murder the day after they go to jail, again, I'm not gonna, if I had to bet money, I'd be rather confident in betting they were in jail for a violent crime. Like someone who was in jail for they had some pot, or they were they evaded their taxes, or they committed fraud. Those kind of people do not get out of jail and go commit murder. Like, I don't think so. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because, again, that's something that should be completely nonpartisan. Like, everybody should be able to agree on that. But again, why are we doing it? Where's the uproar? Like, where's the uproar with this kind of stuff? But anyway, last thing here. This is from Pierre Poilievre. He goes on to say media is ramping up a campaign to protect Trudeau from accountability sessions. They know he can't handle tough questions. He left the borders open to 2,000 people from COVID hotspots and giving away our medical stockpiles. No wonder he's hiding from questions. And again, you had CBC, and I don't know if Global or other people did it too, but I mean, CBC I know did it. They cut away when Trudeau was getting grilled. And again, for all the people that still think CBC is unbiased, like, again, they could literally have front page, first story, we're biased, and yet you people still wouldn't believe that they're biased. But anyway, like, again, it's so blatant that your ability to ignore the obvious it's like the elephant in the room, scenario, that there literally could be an elephant in the room and you'd still find out a way to ignore it. And that's CBC, claiming that CBC isn't biased. It's the exact same as the elephant in the room, comparison. Um, but anyway, that's the one thing too to bring up too, is that the federal government has completely botched this whole thing. They didn't close the borders when they had plenty of warning. They got rid of our stockpile to the country that clearly, you know, either through malicious intentions released this on the rest of the world, or through sheer incompetence released this on the rest of the world. Not only that, we had military intelligence, or intelligence, going back to, I think, January, early February, that said that we should have known all this, and there's no way that Trudeau didn't know. Like, of course, the prime minister, I'm pretty sure, has plenty of access to the highest levels of intelligence for this kind of stuff. So how didn't they know this kind of, or why didn't they deal with it? Like, why didn't they deal with it? It makes no sense. They should be held accountable to it, and the fact that you have CBC and these places letting them off the hook is absolutely insane. Like, absolutely insane too. And just imagine if these lefties, let's just say that Fox was like, I mean, the problem too is the comparison's a little different. In the States, you do have somewhat of a balance between the mainstream media. Like, we don't have a Fox equivalent in Canada. We basically have, your CBC, CNN equivalent. You got your MSNBC, CTV equivalent. You got your Global and your CBS or ABC equivalent. But yet we don't have a more right-leaning channel. And Fox isn't nearly as right-leaning as CNN or MSNBC is to the left. But anyway, imagine if Fox was the only channel that was allowed to carry the Trump pressers. Trump got hit with a hard question, and Fox cut the feed, because that's exactly what CBC did. Imagine the uproar. Imagine the uproar. It would be the biggest story, and it would be a bigger story than if 1,000 people died of the virus tomorrow, in the States. It would be a bigger story. But in Canada, no one cares, and yet we still pretend like we have an unbiased mainstream media. Again, absolutely, absolutely insane. And this stuff should not be going on. And we should be up in arms. But yet, most Canadians completely asleep when it comes to this kind of stuff. So, anyway, that's the video for today. I'm going to leave it there. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Check out my PayPal and email. I got linked in the description. I appreciate any donations, but at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe. And last thing, as always, check out my BitChute channel. Again, YouTube's going to ban or shadow ban me at some point, so check me out there, subscribe, and I'll leave it there.